So, welcome everyone to today's edition of our CESI Talks. CESI Talks is a interview series in the frame of a project we are realizing with the support of the European Parliament. And the project consists in bringing a little bit the assets, also the advantages of the European Union closer to our members, because we know that in the past, maybe rightfully, maybe wrongfully, the European Union has been, blamed for many things which went wrong. And today I'm very, very pleased to have Diederik Samsom with us. He is head of the cabinet of Commission Vice President Frans Timmermans. And Mr. Samsom is also a retired politician and an environmentalist. And I read, of course, your CV, and I'm quite amazed that you also have been a CEO of a green energy company, and you have been a campaigner for Greenpeace Netherlands, and you have also been a party leader for the Dutch Labour Party. Mr. Samsom, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
We speak of the European Green Deal today. I mean, this is your portfolio. This is the Vice President's portfolio, and there's so much going on. And in the summer, you had this European climate law adopted, and now the Commission, I think just a month later, has also proposed this Fit for 55. We are representing also workers in sectors where we say, if we're honest, they will be under pressure. What does the Commission do? What does the European Union do in order to try to be successful that these transition can also be socially fair?
In order to answer that, I have to take you back to the origins of the Green Deal. When we presented it at the end of 2019, 1 week into the new mandate, it stood out for two reasons. One of them, the obvious, it was a very ambitious environmental strategy. Climate neutrality in 2050, the loss of biodiversity, stopping pollution, full circularity, big ambitions on the environment and climate. But actually the other thing was more surprising for the outside world. It was not an environmental strategy. It was a growth strategy. The Green Deal was meant to provide new impetus and new momentum for this continent, which is, let's be frank, aging on all sides. And the people, we are aging, the houses, the companies, and we need new momentum. And I remember vividly at that time, coming from the environmental movement, the NGO movement myself, that raised some eyebrows, because how can you combine an environmental ambition with such a growth strategy? Well, I'm glad we did, because 3 months after that, Corona struck the world, turned our world upside down, blocked the economy, and we needed a growth strategy to recover from COVID. And here we are. The Green Deal is put on steroids by the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the 750 billion investment package. And this is how we can make new jobs in Europe, different jobs, but new jobs, and actually more jobs than in the past. So I'm optimistic that if we do this right, we can combine the environmental ambition with a new growth opportunity.
And what would, I mean, we also mentioned the voice. It's very important, as I said, that this transition happens in a socially fair manner. Because very often we created a working group on let's say the Green Deal, on the future of work also, and we hear from the workers from these sectors where we say, if we speak of the automotive industry or civil aviation or tourism sector, these sectors will be hit. What would you tell these workers, knowing that the greenhouse gas emission or the climate neutrality is a must if we have to save this world, but we also think it has to be socially fair, otherwise it might fail. What would you tell these workers?
Actually, that all starts with a deep felt realization, which is the social aspects of the Green Deal are by far the most challenging ones. I won't say that putting up all those windmills and solar panels and hydrogen production is easy peasy, but it's easy peasy compared to the social challenge, because as much as I believe that this will be a growth strategy providing more jobs in the future, we also have to realize that those jobs are different from the jobs that we have right now, which is a huge challenge in terms of reskilling and transferring and taking care that nobody is left behind in this big transition. That realization is there at the heart of the Green Deal and also in the heart of the people dealing with the Green Deal. EVP Frans Timmermans always says, this will be a just transition, or there just will not be a transition. It's a conditio sine qua non, as we say. But okay, you can't live from heartfelt feelings. So you also have to translate that into instruments. We have the just transition mechanism. That was actually the start of the whole endeavor into a just transition, specifically directed at regions with a high challenge, mining, coal mining, but also heavy carbon intensive industries. And now we have extended that in the Fit for 55 package with the Social Climate Fund. The Social Climate Fund, which is meant to guide this transition in the right direction, taking care that nobody is left behind. That's about energy poverty, but it's also about jobs, reskilling, upskilling, taking care that every worker in Europe has its place and has the opportunity to to keep that place, or is guaranteed a better one.
But I suppose you also see the relevance or the importance of trade unions in this whole process.
Yes, and we invite trade unions in all kinds of ways, and also formally, by the way, to be a part of this conversation. We have, because it didn't stop at the Social Climate Fund. Actually, within the Social Climate Fund, there is a commitment to put forward a council recommendation, which is guidance for all the member states. And while making that recommendation, we obviously invited, and we still invite trade unions to give their input, because we know we have to rely on your knowledge and your experience in making this happen. This won't happen from the Berlaymont building in Brussels. This will happen on the ground, in the factories, in the companies, in the villages and the cities that are involved in this. And especially the cities and villages and companies that are dealing with carbon intensive industries that have to change. Some of them will create more jobs, but also, indeed, some of them will disappear in terms of, well, for instance, coal mining. In the not too distant future, that will end. And all those people working there, having provided Europe with energy and wealth for decades, if not centuries, deserve to be treated equally and fairly, and deserve to get a better opportunity for a new chance in life.
I very much appreciate these words. What we always say is also we need in these transition processes information, consultation, co-decision, meaning somewhat also an ownership. And I think this has been also realized, which we appreciate here, both at EU but also at national government level. At least this is the impression we have had. Coming back maybe to what you said very briefly to the issue, you said this gives new dynamics and new impetus to put, let's say, not only growth in the center of the reflection, but say the environment as a driver for growth. And I read here from the EU climate law, one of the paragraphs, it says climate action should be an opportunity for all sectors of the economy in the Union to help secure industry leadership in global innovation. Now, we both know how great and how weak Europe can be in certain policy fields also. What makes you think, or what makes you hope that the EU during this transition or after the transition can indeed be competitive and a global leader?
Well, my belief in the power and the strength of the European companies and its workers gives me that hope. But hope is not enough. We also have to make it happen. And indeed, I mean, as you say, we're sometimes great and we're not. And you can see the difference. The times we are not is mostly when we stick to the old habits of the past, out of fear to lose out when we make that jump into the new future. And sometimes we're great, and that's when we are jumping into that new future with new innovations and new opportunities. Let me give you an example: offshore wind. A new technology wasn't even there 20 years ago, only started very small at that time, but it started in Europe with the companies developing the turbines, the pole, also the piles, but also the ships and the technology to put them into the sea. And we now have a thriving industry at that place. A bit less great, but not disastrous, is the story about cars, where the European car industry was quite late in seeing the new future of electrical mobility. And we had to be kicked ass by Elon Musk and some other, even Chinese companies. Luckily, the big European manufacturers are strong enough to make up for that late start. And we now see Volkswagen, Audi and others really making up and making pace with new electrical models. So every time when you see an industry that dares to make the jump into an innovative new future, you increase the chances of a prosperous future. What we need to do as member state governments, but also as the European Commission, is help companies make that jump. Sometimes it's risky, a bit too risky to make the jump without some help. So we have the Innovation Fund, we have all other kinds of instruments to guide all industries into that new future. Also steel-based chemicals, industries that you can hardly imagine having a completely new production process, not based on cokes or naphtha, but on hydrogen or electricity. But it's happening, and it will happen fast in the near future.
So Samsom, all the best to you, lots of success. It's good to hear that we have an environmentalist campaigner at the head of the cabinet of the Vice President. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time and take care of yourself.
Thank you, and all the best to you.